Hello. Normally, I put the ad reads at the back end of the podcast so that you can hear the good stuff and not have to listen to me shill pointlessly for 2 minutes. And just so you know, I do this intentionally in our production because even I object to commercials as much as the next podcast listener. However, at this moment, I would ask that you indulge me because I've got a book coming out on April 30th, 2022 on Amazon, and I'd like you to go ahead and place your order right now. The book's title is 12 Rules for Leaders, the Foundation for Intentional Leadership, and it's a collection of 13 essays on leadership. In the book, I address the 12 leadership areas that we have found leaders need to be the most effective in, and then I throw in an extra essay there at the back end. From establishing a foundation of leading teams through managing conflict effectively, all the way through leading teams through change, knowing what to do and why to do it, I believe can help you become a better leader. This book wasn't written just over the course of the last 2 years, and this isn't another fly-by-night leadership development book, here today and gone in the wind in the next month. 12 Rules for Leaders represents a continuation of the work we've been doing here at HSCT Publishing with our leadership training and development products and services, from Leadership Toolbox to Leading Keys, and it also represents the distillation of lessons we've learned, absorbed, and transmitted to others from training and developing around 15,000 managers and supervisors over the course of the last 10 years. This is no slouch of a book, but it's written in an easy to understand and easy to read direct format with practical tips that you can implement today, no matter your leadership problem, your leadership situation, or your leadership circumstances. It's kind of like getting coaching from me directly without having to pay my full coaching rate. I fundamentally believe that this is the book right now, for right now, because leaders like you are positioned to do great work during the truly revolutionary times we are living in, well, right now. And sometimes you need a book as a guide to help you through the work. So head on over to leadershiptoolbox.us and scroll down the homepage. Click on the link and add your name to the pre-order list for 12 Rules for Leaders, the Foundation for Intentional Leadership. And look for the book in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle format on Amazon on April 30th, 2022. By the way, we'll be talking about the rules in 12 Rules for Leaders in our podcasts, both the long and the short, throughout the months of May and June, so you don't want to miss out on that. And well, that was 3 minutes. So that's it for me. Out. Hello. My name is Jesan Sorrells, and this is the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, Shorts. There's no co-host on Shorts. These are 6 to 8 minute observations, ideas, thoughts, or rants about the literature, philosophy, psychology, and the theology of leadership. Because listening to me talk about leadership for now up to 6 to 8 minutes is better than reading and trying to understand yet another business book, even mine. The mindset undergirding most practical leadership practices, the ones you take for granted, is chaotic, unfocused, reactive, and only occasionally and miraculously effective. If you don't believe the truth of this statement, think back to the last time someone in a position of quote-unquote power led you to do something you did not want to do, or that you did want to do. It really makes no difference. That person was probably as ill-prepared to lead you as you were ill-prepared to follow them. Leadership, fundamentally, when executed in this way, as it often is in offices, workplaces, families, churches, and other organizations across the country, inevitably and spectacularly fails. The reason the theorizing behind most leadership practices fails so spectacularly in the face of lived reality is not rocket science, nor do we need empirical research or academic research for that matter. My apologies to all the academics who are listening. We don't need any of that to understand why these practices fail. The reason that the theorizing and the practices don't match up in the living, practical world is that the theorizing is based on 4 commonly held yet deeply flawed premises, or primi. I'm not really sure. Anyway, the first premise, and this is a fundamental one to Americans, to all my international listeners, this one runs deep in the core of American psyche. As a matter of fact, it runs so deep, this first premise, that almost no one questions it. Everyone can lead. That's the first premise. Then the second premise follows from the first. Everyone should lead. And then from that second premise follows the third premise. Everyone has a right to lead. Now, sometimes you'll hear that framed as everyone has a responsibility to lead, but really we're talking about rights here because, quite frankly, we have fetishized rights. We are now a rights-driven culture, again, in America. And then from there comes the fourth premise. Everyone recognizes and seizes leadership opportunities. When we consider critically, and even for a few minutes, or for more than a few minutes, these assumptions, we realize why they are flawed and how deeply they embed themselves into the American, and shockingly enough, increasingly global mental models of how leadership, quote unquote, should be done. Which then, these assumptions, again, unexamined and unlooked at, translate into academic models of leadership, which then translate into lived out models of leadership, or at least attempted lived out models of leadership, and on in an ever expanding, ineffective, yet glorious sounding feedback loop. You know, the kind of feedback loop that produces great headlines in Forbes or allows people to have that Forbes Business Writer Council designation in their LinkedIn profile. But when you actually look at the practices that they engaged in whatever position they were leading from, you find out that, well, they had feet of clay. Anyway, usually the results from this feedback loop are disastrous, and you don't have to go too far to find those results either. So what's the way out of this? Well, for leaders, what really matters to being an intentional leader is knowing what the role of leadership is in the system in which leaders happen to find themselves, and then coupling that knowledge, that understanding, with an understanding, a deep, intentional understanding of the responsibilities and the depth of them that the leader is tasked with upholding. Rarely is this role, this type of leadership, well defined or even articulated. However, the roles of leaders can be broken down into 4 categories. Now, these categories were originally defined in a marketing context in the book Linchpin, Are You Indispensable? By the marketer, author, blogger, and general ruckus maker, a guy named Seth Godin. And the way that Seth defined these 4 areas, he has a 4-quadrant, which you should go take a look at that book and take a look at it and see it. It's one of his most underrated books, but he has a 4-quadrant in that book, and he defines marketing in 4 different ways, but you can apply this to leadership too. So there are 4 ways a leader can show up. A leader can be a bureaucrat. A leader can be a whiner. A leader can be a fundamentalist zealot, or a leader can be a linchpin. Which leads us to rule number 1 in the 12 rules for leaders, the foundation for intentional leadership. Leaders are linchpins before they are anything else. And well, that's it for me. Follow us on all the places that you follow us. Please subscribe to Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast. Please tell your friends. Please like and share. Please also check out the HSCT website for all products and solutions. Please check out the Leading Keys website for products and solutions, our remote training services, our books, our trainings that will help you become a better leader.
And watch this space for more information about our upcoming book, 12 Rules for Leaders, a foundational guide to intentional leadership, coming in April 2022. Please also go to JesanSorrells.com for more blogs and more posts about how you can be a better leader, and check out all of our YouTube channels online. Thanks, and have a great rest of your leadership day. Out.